didn't hear what you say. Where's our secretary? She's going to get started. Congratulations to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, can we get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Fowler. Chairman Springs.
Here. Any communications from staff?
Yes, Chairman, we would like to note that we've received one letter from the applicants for item 6A. That letter has been distributed to yourselves as well as to the public, and staff has no further communication.
Thank you. Public comments regarding so at this time. We don't have any public hearings, so seeing, hearing none, we're going to close that segment. I do have a question for staff in regards to the letter that we received. Would this be a motion that we would have to make to continue this, indicating that the applicant won't be here to give us a report?
No, Chairman. Item 6A is just an informational item, so there's no action needed by the commission. Approval that the commission put on the special use permit to return a year after operations began, the alcohol sales. And so staff is bringing that 1 year report. The applicant unfortunately was not able to be here tonight, but there's no presenting that 1 year report
So staff is presenting that report, is that correct?
as a receive and file item.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to get a motion for the approval of minutes for July 5th, 2023.
I move approval of, just one at a time?
1 out of 10, because I think someone was not here on the other.
Okay, I move approval of the minutes of July 5th, 2023.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly moved in second. Calling for any questions on the minutes for July 5th, 2023. Hearing none, we'll call for a vote.
Commissioner Fowler.
Abstain.
Is there a motion for the approval of the minutes for July 25th, 2023?
So moved. Or I moved for the approval of the minutes for July 25th, 2023.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. We call for any questions. Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Fowler.
Aye.
Commissioner Rice.
Aye.
Commissioner Trejo.
Aye.
6A.
A 1 year review of SP 2019-018, approved on July 1st, 2020, to allow the sale of distilled spirits for off-site consumption from an existing retail store on an approximately 11.8 acre CR Commercial and Recreation Zone Property at 3471 West Century Boulevard.
In summary of the staff report, and so we have no staff presentation, but just a quick summary. The commission did apply a condition requiring 1 year return and review of the special use permit. Staff reviewed the special use permit, conditions of approval. We've confirmed the applicant has complied with all conditions. And that concludes staff's comments on this, but we're available for any follow-up questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wilcox. We're going to open up for questions for you, Ms. Wilcox, if that's okay. We're going to start off with Commissioner Shaw Williams.
I haven't any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Trejo,
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Fowler.
No questions, Chair. Thank you.
Wow, very good, thank you. I just have a question. It's in regards to the report that we see on the crime statistics. Now, I don't think it have anything to do with the actual consumption of alcohol, but I've noticed that from 20 to 23, the crime has actually risen. 22, at one point it was 103, and then 2021, 105, and then 2022, 117. And it did, and as far as the subject sites, this was the area site, and now we dictate the subject sites is actually had risen quite a bit from 20 to 2022. Would that have any effect on? I do notice that now traffic, are there posted signs that can be enforced by the local police department and/or traffic control officers?
Yes, in that area, there are a lot more traffic control measures that have been installed that allow for increased opportunity of enforcement. And we do believe that the increased criminal activity from the stadium and other facilities.
Understood. Okay, no other questions. Thank you very much. Okay, Madam Secretary, we'll move on.
Item 6B, overview report on micro-unit regulations.
File is present and notice has been given in the form and manner as required by law. Staff received no correspondence from the public on this item, and Senior Planner Bernard McCrumbie is present to do a short staff presentation.
Good evening. Rise. Beautiful weather, industry, and an abundance of attractions continue to make Los Angeles County a hotspot for new residents. As Inglewood continues to establish its identity as the entertainment capital of the West Coast, I thought we were going to clap. That was a dramatic pause. Construction costs have resulted in higher home prices and rents. According to apartments.com, the housing division, the average rent in LA County for a one-bedroom apartment is about $2,200. And in Inglewood, the same apartment size rents for about $1,800. This number is expected pipeline. While Inglewood rents are increasing, we still remain the most affordable in LA County. In addition, we continue to outproduce most cities in the development of affordable housing units throughout the region. Over 800 new units throughout the different areas of the city. One development in particular, which came before this commission a few years ago, was 225 La Brea, which proposed 137 studio units that were included private open space and approximately 14,000 square feet of common open space. The developer was required to apply for planned assembly development, which granted relief from development standards. The zoning code currently does not permit micro units with affordable housing developments as well as through planned assembly developments, which I just mentioned. The city has approved these projects in both instances. However, staff is looking to explore whether the city is open to allowing micro units by right under apartment, typically around 350 square feet. Micro units are typically studios or small one bedrooms. They range in size between 280 to 450 square feet. A micro unit floor plan consists at minimum of a sleeping area, full bathroom, and a kitchen, which is designed with creative storage that maximize space and flow. Micro unit developments generally offer common open space in lieu of private open space found in most traditional apartment units. Market research studies have shown that potential renters find the common open opportunity to live independently at an affordable price. Staff is asking the Planning Commission to consider the following questions related to microunit and provide your feedback to frame a potential code amendment at some point next year. Should microunit developments require affordable set-asides, meaning should these types of developments require some sort of some percentage of them to be made affordable versus market rate? Should microunits be allowed parking? And lastly, should microunits require shared amenity space? These are some questions we would like for you to consider and open the floor up for discussion. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Very good. I am looking at some of the questions, so we're going to be addressing some of these questions this evening. So we're going to start off with Commissioner Shaw Williams. We want to address the questions that are up on the screen here. Should the microunits be allowed as a right housing type? So before we get into that, can you explain what you mean by
That we would modify the code to allow these types of developments to be built without needing any discretionary action. So as mentioned earlier in the presentation, we've had a proposal that's come before us at 225 La Brea, which proposed market rate units that were 430 square feet. Currently, the IMC requires a minimum of 500 square. So because they were requesting some relief from our development standards, and they met the minimum lot size requirement, it triggered or allowed them the opportunity to apply for a planned assembly development, which came before you. Okay, that's one instance. The other instance in which properties would be able to get relief from the code would be through density bonus incentives, which will not come before you, and those will go through sites for a smaller sized unit that's smaller than what our code requirement would be. So when we say by right, we're saying would we allow a 400 square foot unit to be allowed through site plan review and not require any density bonus incentives, concessions, or
ask the commissioners, do they understand what we're looking for and what we're going to do on the first question? Are you all understanding the question? Okay, so we're going to,
I do have a question.
it's not your turn yet.
Oh, well, you asked a general question. So
I asked a general question, then I'm going to ask each individual commissioners.
thank you, sir.
Well, that was my concern, the square footage in terms of the size. You said right now there's no requirement in terms of the size. Like, for example, can we make a condition that it has to be anywhere from 450 to 500 square feet? We could do that?
yeah. So currently the minimum unit size is 500 square feet.
500.
So anything less than that would be considered by our definition a micro unit.
Culver City has them, Long Beach and Pasadena, but I'm curious as to how much those rents go for.
So it's kind of a loaded question. In most cities that we found, these micro units are tied to affordable housing developments, which means that the rents are, in our research, that there was a development in Santa Monica, a micro unit development that when it came online, rents were around $1,400. They've since 10 years later ballooned to over $4,000. So, the initial thought was that these types of units would provide more affordable. Some cities are finding that, they still are able to garner the same rents that would be for a normal sized unit. So
I'm going to interrupt really quickly. I did say that we're going to go to each question, but we're going into the second question as well. So when you come, so if you want to continue with the within a half a mile of the Metro K lines, you can do that, or parking. So when it comes to each individual commissioners, you can do one or as many as you like. So I'm gonna give you a time frame. No, I'm just kidding.
But I do like the ideal, no further questions.
So you're complete on all the questions that are on the board here?
Oh, there's two more.
Parking.
Should micro units require parking? Well, I think all apartments should require parking. So I would say yes. Should micro units require shared amenity space?
So the shared amenity space or common open space is basically just a requirement that instead of providing or in exchange of providing the code required private open space, balconies, patios, things of that nature, there would be a common area, rooftop deck. People who have visitors can bring their groups and congregate in these open spaces instead of being crammed into a 300 square foot unit. And so that's what the idea behind a shared amenity space would be, is to provide a congregating.
One of these units, and I would feel like I should have access to everything that's within that particular building. So I would say yes to that as well. I have no further questions or
All right, thank you.
comments.
All right, we're gonna go with Ms. Commissioner
Trejo.
Trejo. Avocados earlier, and then I'm just focused on those avocados that I'm gonna get next week.
December, I say. I'll tie them up. What would the review process be for this type of development if there is no discretionary review?
Site plan review.
Site plan review, and that's for all of them,
That would potentially.
potentially. Well, what does that mean?
I mean, well, that would be the way that we would approve.
Laundry facilities, so we impose a condition.
Yeah, well, the laundry facilities would fall within our minimum development standards anyway. So they would be required to meet at minimum those minimum development standards outside of the unit requirements.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, for anything smaller than a one bedroom, there's a laundry.
that I would like to see in these units, which actually I think are a good idea, because I think Inglewood is now not only an entertainment center, but an employment hub. And I think that there will be a lot of service workers that could use these type of apartments that we have, hotels coming into Inglewood. We have more restaurants. So that's what I want to make sure do they get an environmental review? Is separate from the site plan review process?
If the number of units exceed the minimum thresholds that would.
That's the planning department would
Correct.
ensure that if it fits into a certain category, it either gets categorical exemption or a full environmental review.
Correct.
Okay. Let's see, let's start with, should microwave units be allowed as by right? I would say, yes. Unit developments require affordable units set aside. I would say yes, 15%, at least 15% of however many they want to develop. It's my recommendation. Should micro units only be allowed within half a mile of Metro K and C line stations? I consider those major transit hubs, and I think that these type of unit should only be per unit, which is, I know, lower than what a regular apartment, but because they're close to the transportation hub, I think one is sufficient. Should micro units require shared amenity space? Yes. Now, I am going to read off what I'd like to see. It's probably on your standards list already, but I'm going to call it my wish list. Laundry facilities, an area for packages to be received by, UPS, FedEx. They have that. Now these, can we require utilities and internet to be included? Internet for sure, no?
Okay.
That's my wish list. That's my wish list, that utilities and internet be included. Can we limit occupancy to these small units, 2 per person?
I don't believe you can under fair housing law.
Okay. I'm thinking 10 years down the line that maybe they want to start because it's cheap. Hopefully in 10 years, it won't go up $3,000 like the Santa Monica ones are. That's why you try to get more people in, but I would like to see that if it can, if not. And those are my responses. Again, I think that this is important for service workers, even students, like we've got, those are the kind that you'll probably get in there. But who knows? Maybe others. But but again, I don't want to see them, I don't want to see them all over the city. I just want to see them major transportation hubs. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Rice, please.
Thank you. My concern, the greatest concern is probably with the first question, should micro units be allowed as by right housing types? I'm just concerned that this is very rich for developers to be, and if you have 50 developers out there and they decide that, hey, this is gonna be by right, let's just switch over to micro housing and we're gonna all go and put in 50 applications next week, and they meet all the by right standards, we quickly have an oversaturation of micro housing units. That's why I'm concerned that we shouldn't bypass this body in regulating where or how many end up coming on the market and the saturation thereof. So I wouldn't bypass the planning commission on the most part, single individuals or couples. Second question, should micro-unit development require affordable units set-asides? Yes, probably 20%. Absolutely. Should micro-units be allowed within half mile of Metro K-line and C-line? It's require parking. One parking space for every 2 units. That's kind of question. Are they allowed to come in and request density bonuses also on top of this?
Yes. So right now, if one was to come in, the only way they would be if
What else
if we allowed it as a by right use, those concessions then would move to other areas that they were looking for relief.
Yeah, and that was actually, we talked about that, and one of the reasons why this is more of this is different than such a sensitive issue. And we have so many dynamics particularly at the state level, that are overriding our ability to control where housing goes. And the state legislation is essentially saying whether you like it or you're not, they can do it. So what we're doing is we're trying to say, okay, do we get ahead of that before these standards come down? And the particular question you asked about is one of the things we were grappling with about, okay, how does this affect if, in fact, we do it by right and then density bonus on top of that? What does that look like? And that's why we didn't want to come in with standards, because those are one of the things that when we return, we would have done a deeper dive and investigation to determine that we're not putting ourselves in harm's way. So, for instance, if the micro unit production, a
That's
lot
what
of
I'm
the things
concerned
that we're
with.
talking
By
about.
right, they can do a density bonus, and this body was bypassing everything that we
Exactly.
we put on in here for regulations is bypassed.
So we'll be consulting with the state and talking about what parameters we have over these types of things. And when we do return, it'll be crafted so that those impacts.
Commissioner Fowler?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, my first question had to do with the standard that says 500 square feet. Do we know why that is? Was it a safety issue? I started thinking, is there really a reason why?
Can you
They
talk
have
on the
that.
microphone, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear better now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, that was my concern, was if they said 500, somebody took some thought into exit, enter, if something's happening, whatever. sometimes those parameters people don't think about, but when you talk to the fire department, they say, yeah, it makes a big difference. So I'm just trying to understand that aspect. And maybe nothing at all, but I'm asking.
Yeah, so all of our minimum development standards, they're pretty old, but they were all designed with the intention of families, kind of being able to move in, develop, keep it to think about upward mobility in families, right? Which is why we still have some of our children play area requirements for our multifamily development, so on and so forth. Part of the evolution, we're single much longer, aren't really having families as young as they did at one point in time, and so then the need for more of a minimalistic approach to the housing becomes more of a want, so to speak. So there's a market for that, and so that's why this was
Okay,
designed for
thank
two
you.
people.
And so if we didn't do by right housing type, what was the alternative?
Well, the alternative was that we would remain status quo. So you still have the request the concessions with the affordable when providing affordable units. So that's the alternative. But the city would benefit, either way. The PAD, there needs to be a community benefit. With the affordable housing, the city would get the affordable units.
Yeah, I had a question about exactly that. How does period? I do appreciate the conversation about the state. I do appreciate the thought that this may be getting ahead of what's going to happen anyway, and let's have some what's going to benefit the city and the residents. Should units require affordable units? Absolutely, and I'm more with Commissioner Trejo, 50%. I think because we know the housing is a problem, and since the developers do understand that that's not going to take the investment it would normally take to build these, and some of them need to consider the materials that they use. And I think that's what I was concerned about in terms of the materials they can use that cost a lot less, yet are more earthquake proof, more flammable proof, et cetera. And so if we don't have any say so about that, I do have a concern if that's how we'd be going. Should micro units absolutely be within, I totally agree with my colleagues on that, within the California. And some people are traveling a long time, even though their service, yes, they can be on that, but they need a car. Sometimes they need a car, whether they have a child, whatever. So I'd say at least one space per unit. Shared amenity space, absolutely. I think that pretty much covers it. Verifying.
Okay.
I said five, I said
15.
1-5.
Okay.
I said 1-5.
Oh, well, I said 5-0.
Okay, got it.
For me, when I understand, I spend a lot of time about the housing, just even on my day-to-day job. And when we really understand the volume of housing that it's going to take, I think that you mentioned somebody capped their amount. I don't know what authority we have on that, but I think that should be some consideration. She said 1.5. Maybe we can't legally do that. I don't know, but more of them are coming to Inglewood. And because of, I think my colleague said it, the developments that are coming here, the businesses that are coming here, and a lot of it is service industry. Anything we can do to facilitate that will only benefit us as a city with the people that are going to invest. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to close it out. No, ma'am. What we're going to do is I'm going to close it out. So you have 1 minute to say what you have to say.
On my wish list, an electric charging station?
Okay.
Yeah, let me just let me respond to a couple of things you guys said in there really quickly. Our building codes are advancing rapidly, so I want you to understand. So things that you were talking about, like bicycle, location through our municipal code have been merged into the building code. So one of the things, and something we will investigate as part of this, is that some of these buildings would be requirement for LEED certification now. So they're changing it as they kind of go along and make it more progressive. But I think it's platinum, a couple of levels that we can identify in there to make sure there's energy efficiency above and beyond what the code would require, because there is no real advantage if they have to do it anyway. So just to let you know that in both of those conversations that we're with, not only the language, but we will give you examples of what that would look like. So you could picture it, have a feel for it, and it's something that I'd like to see codified within our municipal code as well, so that as individuals are looking at it, they're very clear. If there is a decision that allows staff to have in a quagmire over something not meeting up to your expectations. So, thank you. I took her 1 minute.
Okay, I'm going to close it out. So the question number one, should the micro units developers or development require affordable units? Absolutely. And should the micro units be allowed within a half a mile of the metro K and C? I would say absolutely. I don't know where that land is. I don't think there's any vacant land. I haven't seen any, unless I believe about 15 to 20%. I'm just going to tell you a story. When I was a younger man, the thing that I wanted was an automobile. I'm not sure if younger people want cars now or not. But I think we should, my last question being shared amenities. Shared amenities to me would mean open space, a game room, pool room, or whatever. I'm gonna address a question or statement that Commissioner Trejo made in regards to laundry facilities. I'm not sure if you indicated, Mr. Bernard, that the laundry facilities would be in each unit, or would it be complex? Then I believe that they should be on each floor. If you have a 400-foot square unit, there's no way you can put a laundry facility in that unit. So I think that each floor, and I think they should have a tot lot or something for children. A one unit is going to be kind of difficult for you to. I'm believing back in the day when you were coming up there, Mr. Jackson, we called them bachelor pads. So now they're calling them micro. We were flabbergasted on getting a bachelor pad. So I think the concept is going to still be the same. I think we should have an open space. I don't know about children being in a one apartment building. That's going to be kind of tight. This reminds me of the lofts that you have downtown, where you have one big room with your kitchen and then you have your bathroom. So I believe in the shared amenity space. 30 seconds. We're going to start with Commissioner Fowler.
No additional comments, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Rice.
Back to my same argument, and I want everyone to
Over the
really
mic.
consider it well. We have a number of projects that have been approved by this commission that have not been constructed yet, and I wanted to find out, and I want to save my time as 90 units. Would that be tossed out, and potentially this one can come in and put in 150 units now?
Good question.
As you brought at the address, and only because you brought up the 225 address, I think we were approved for 75, 80 units over there, and now it's proposed to put 137 units over there of micro units.
Yes, regulations to speak otherwise. Also, the development of these units would also be subject to density requirements. And so unless they're allowed through a density bonus, the additional units, there's still a cap on the number of units based on the allowable density. Units are smaller, doesn't necessarily mean that they can build more units. They still would be subject to the density requirement.
And the density is based on population or units? The unit.
It's based on the square footage. So there's a ratio that's
The square footage per unit or the building?
No, it's 1 year. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Trail?
I just want to say, I think it's a good idea that we're doing what we can to get ahead of the state where we can, because we've seen what the state can do, and they want to take away the local control. So I'm glad that we're ahead of it. Thank you.
Commissioner Shaw Williams?
50% for affordable sounds like an awful lot, in my opinion. I'm more comfortable with anywhere between 15 and 20%. And that's my comment. No further comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we've done well. We're going to move on to the next, the commissioners' initiatives. Thank you. Okay, any commissioners' initiative? Commissioner Fowler?
Is this just before we,
Commissioner,
is this before we close?
I'm sorry?
This is my comments.
There's no vote.
Thank you. The comments I asked about earlier.
Yes,
Yes,
this is your
thank you.
time. You have
Thank you.
exactly 2 minutes. You have your
Oh,
time.
Thank you. I think I can make that. Oh, I can have your too? How generous. Thank you. The terawatt groundbreaking for the state-of-the-art 24-hour charging facility for EVs. It'll be a membership access, but I'm excited about the opportunity that we're going to have with that project. Also, I survived the earthquake and hurricane. Did drive around the district to kind of see if there was any major damage. One council member, Gray, had a small business economic development town hall, which was really at the Miracle Theater, which really had a great turnout. And I wanted to thank Mindy and Director Jackson. They did a fabulous job of sharing what the projects were. I think a lot of people were excited about what's going to be happening. My next item was, we recently, the team, had the opportunity to go to the LA Business Journal event down at the Biltmore, and they talked about real estate trends and a history of where Inglewood was and where we are today. I saw a lot of jealous faces, and I think all the commissioners were very proud to be from Inglewood that day. Everybody was looking at Inglewood, which is a good thing. So more to come. She shared that with them, so they're going to be jealous for a while. I also shared in District 1, I did get to attend the Beyonce concert. Hey. People were really excited, pretty much well behaved, from what I saw. So I think that's the reputation we want to have and keep, and I'm proud of that. And then finally, I will be attending the national voter registration is actually on September 19th, but in the city of Inglewood, as usual, we'll be ahead of the curve, and we're going to be celebrating it, according to our city clerk, on September 16th. So I hope everyone will come out, bring a friend, bring a relative, tell anybody if they moved, re-register, make sure they're able to vote. And with that, I hope everyone has.
Weekend, thank you.
Commissioner Trail?
Yes, I just wanted to mention the cleanup of the homeless or unhoused, I'm not sure what term is being used now, unhoused on Century Boulevard under the freeway. Fabulous, fabulous. I was very happy to see that. Also, and I'm not sure whether the gas station right across the street close by, I don't know if that's Inglewood or if that's the city of LA, but they also had just terrible, terrible unhoused encampment there. It was terrible, but that has also been cleaned up. And I'm just really thankful. I'm not sure who's responsible for it, but whoever it was, thank you. I think it's the best thing that could have happened because, as I've said many times before, people that stay at the hotels, and that's being cleaned up. Now I'll be pushing for lighting under there too. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Shaw Williams?
Hi, I'd just like to thank Mindy for driving us to the LA Business Conference. That was very nice of you. You got us there and back safely. Kiana Williams did an outstanding job. Joined. My husband and I were very excited It's going to be amazing, state of the art, and I cannot wait. They told us anywhere from 4 to 6 months. She was estimating December, but she said probably not until February. So that's it, and have a good weekend, and I'll be heading out to his favorite, so we're leaving on Sunday.
Very
Have
nice.
a good weekend.
Okay, you have a great weekend. Any stowaways we can do here on here? You know, first of all, I just want to say to everyone, the staff and the commissioners, I want to say thank you very much for your wonderful cards on the 23rd of this last month.
August.
And we're going to put her to rest on Monday. And I just want to thank everybody for your thoughts and prayers. It meant a lot to me. I received flowers from the commissioners and staff. They came to my house, and it was, you know, sometimes when you have tears in your eyes, tears does not mean sadness. Tears sometimes mean joy. You know, there's a scripture in the New King James Version of John that talks about not letting your heart be troubled, and so he wouldn't have told you. And he says that he goes to prepare a place for you, and when he goes to prepare that place for you, he will come again and receive you to him, that where he is, you may be also. So I believe, and this is my belief, that where my sister is in a better place, she's rejoicing. She said, "Do not be sad with me." But you know, sometimes you can say those words, believe in the scripture, and I do believe that, again, we will see each other again. And I want to close this meeting in memory of my sister, Loretta Springs Buzard. The meeting is now adjourned.